my first girlfriend. Throughout my life, I've never been in a real relationship. Not many girls ever really liked me. I've seen so many couples everywhere I go, and even my friends get girls to like them. But as for me, there was no luck. I get so jealous when I see couples together like lovebirds. It makes me even more desperate for someone. I guess I wasn't the best looking person. One day, as I was scrolling through Facebook, I got a notification popping out as I clicked on the notification and noticed there was a Hmong girl that added me. She had long, beautiful black hair with a cute face in her profile picture. I was immediately interested and stalked her page. She posted a few pictures of her with her friends and mostly just love quotes. I accepted her friend request. Not even an hour later, she messaged me saying hi. I felt so excited to talk to her, so I replied within a second. Just like everyone else, she took a while to reply back. We talked and talked until I asked her how she knew me. She told me that she saw me hanging out with my friends the other night when we went out. She didn't tell me where, but that was enough for me. I asked her why she decided to add me, and she replied, "I think you're attractive, and you just seem so lonely, so I wanted to talk to you." We talked for another hour until she told me that she had to leave, so we left it there. The next day, she never got back to me, even though I left her a message. The day after that, she didn't reply back either, until it felt like a week later when she finally replied back to me. So we talked, and it seemed like she was into me. I told her we should meet in person someday, and she agreed. I made plans with her and met her in person at one of my favorite parks. She told me she doesn't like daylight that much since she gets sunburns, so she wanted to meet me later on when it was dawn. The day came, and we finally got to meet. I was already at the place waiting for her. The place was kind of quiet, but there were tables around, and I could see little kids playing in the playground with their families far away. I looked around but didn't see anybody, so I texted her that I'd arrived and I was waiting for her. It took her a few minutes to see the text and text back that she would be here in a bit. I waited for about another while before seeing a girl walking toward me. She was wearing a short black dress with a beach hat on her head. She had long, wavy black hair and dark brown eyes. She approached me with a cute smile and said to me, "Sorry to keep you waiting." She was absolutely stunning and gorgeous, and I was stunned by her looks. "Are you the girl that I'm supposed to meet here?" I asked, showing her the text. She nods her head and sat down in front of me. I never felt this lucky to meet a girl like this. We talked a bit. I asked her if someone dropped her off since she just appeared out of nowhere. She said her parents dropped her off. We talked for about an hour before we got up and walked around the park. She asked me if it was okay for me to drop her off at her house, which I said yes. We only met for the first time in person, and we were comfortable with each other like we were a couple. I dropped her off and gave her a kiss on the cheek before she went inside the house. I couldn't stop thinking about her after that day. Just like the elders say, I've fallen in love with that girl. I received a message from her saying, "Thanks for today, I had a lot of fun, hope we meet again," with a blushing emoji. I messaged her back, but she never responded back. I went to sleep that night and had a dream of her. She never got back to me until 2 days later when it was dawn. I asked her why she always takes so long to reply back. She said, "Sorry, I'm just busy with my parents and other stuff." I was very patient with her, so I didn't mind. Not even a month after, we started dating. Sometimes I would go pick her up and take her out to places. I would also buy her cute stuff like teddy bears, roses, etc. One day, she called me on the phone and told me that her parents are going to be out of town. She asked if I wanted to go to sleep over. I said yes and drove to her house. I knocked on the door and waited for about what felt like a minute before she answered the door for me. She smiled and hugged me before leading me inside the house. The house looked like someone had just gotten done cleaning. Most of the lights were turned off, as the only light that was turned on was the one in the living room. I sat on the sofa as she handed me a cup of water. I realized she was dressed in the same short black dress as when I first met her. We sat and cuddled as she turned on the TV and put on movies for us to watch. She was cuddled next to me. Her skin felt so soft and smooth. She asked if I wanted any snacks, and I said yes, as she got up and walked into the kitchen before coming back with some fruit snacks and Oreos. I asked her where her parents were going. She said they were going out of town to visit their relatives. It was already getting pretty dark, but for some reason, we were just sitting in the dark, as the only lighting was the reflection coming from the TV. I took a glance at my girlfriend, and I couldn't see her well, but the top of her head looked like it was busted open, and her face had spots that I couldn't see since it was so dark. Her tongue was slowly coming out. I rubbed my eyes and looked at her again, but I still saw the same thing. I turned on my phone and flicked the light at her as she turned to look at me with her normal face. She still looked like the same beautiful girl that I know. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Oh, nothing. Is it okay if we turn on the light?" I asked. She agreed and got up to flick the light switch on. The lights were on now and I can see clearly again. "It's getting pretty late. Want to head to my room?" she asked. I agreed as she took my hand and led me toward her room. Her room felt so cold and off. It felt as if no one had come inside this room for years. I reached for the light switch, but she stopped me. She looked at me and said, "I still feel kind of shy toward you. Is it okay if we keep the lights off?" I didn't fully understand what she meant by that, but I just went along with whatever she said. "What do you mean by that?" I asked. She looked at me with a blank expression. "You don't understand? You've never touched a girl before, huh?" she asked. "Well, no. You're the first girlfriend I ever had," I replied back. She giggled and walked closer to me. She smells so good, it's almost as if she had drugged me. But something about her was off. Her silhouette looked so weird. I sat down on the bed next to her and put my hand on hers as she gave me a kiss on the lips. She took off her dress before taking off mine. I pinned her down onto the bed, and as we were making out, there was an awful smell almost like a rotten corpse. I stopped and pulled away from her. "What's wrong?" she asked. I looked around the room and felt like something was very off. I asked her what the smell was. She got quiet for a second. "Maybe it's just a rat or small animal that died somewhere nearby. Just ignore it and let's continue," she stuttered. There was something bothering me, but she was too gorgeous, so I couldn't control myself any longer. The next morning, I woke up half naked on her bed. It was morning, so the sun was shining brightly into the room. I looked around the room, but it was just me. My girlfriend was nowhere to be found. I barely remember anything that happened last night. I walked out of her room and into the living room, but it was dead silence. I called my girlfriend's name, but she didn't answer. I took out my phone and called her, but there was no signal. Where could have she gone to? I looked all over the place, but she was nowhere in sight. I even went outside, but there was no car other than my own. I went back inside the house and waited for about an hour before receiving a call from my mom. I picked up the call, and my mom was telling me to go back home. She got something she wanted to say to me. I left my girlfriend a text message saying, "Hey, I don't know where you went, but I need to go back home now. Had a blast last night. Hope I see you again soon," before getting back into my car and driving back home. My mom was asking me if I knew my girlfriend that well, and I told her I don't know too much about her, but she's a very nice girl. But what my mom told me was some shocking news. She said the house that I went to has a family living inside, the parents and one daughter. Their daughter was a nice girl, but she didn't have a boyfriend, and she was very single, so one day she went out with her friends to the club. They didn't know the true story of how she died, but her friends said when they last saw her was when a drunk guy was following her around, and after she told them that she will be heading home first because the guy there was making her feel uncomfortable. Maybe she got raped and killed. Her body was found under a cliff, as if someone pushed her off to her death. After that incident happened, the murderer was never found. Her parents still live in that house, but they went out of town. The parents even said that sometimes they would hear and see their daughter inside her room crying and touching stuff. After hearing all of this from my mom, I was in disbelief. I asked her how did she know about it, and she told me some of our relatives live nearby, and they know her family. I told her that they must have gotten the wrong people because my girlfriend is still alive. She was with me. My mom and dad looked worried. They tried to convince me that my girlfriend is a ghost. No wonder the house felt so weird when I was in there, and when I saw the scary stuff on my girlfriend's body, it was probably her real body. I tried not to think of it much. I didn't even believe it fully, but my parents were telling me to end it with her, and they will find me a shaman to help fix me. But I said no because I really love her, and I won't believe she's really a ghost until I see it myself. I went into my room and thought about all of the things that happened between me and her. Is she really a ghost? What really happened? I wasn't even done thinking until I heard a message notification on my phone. I picked up my phone and saw that my girlfriend had left me 3 messages. Message 1, "Hey, my parents will be out of town next weekend." Message 2, "If you don't mind, Is it okay if you come and sleep over? Message 3. I will be in the house all by myself. I agreed to go since I also wanted to spend more time with her, and I hope she isn't actually a ghost. A week later, it was time for me to go back and visit her. For some reason, I felt scared and bothered by something. My mom tied a string on my arm telling me, if I don't believe she was a ghost, then do what the OGs always say back in the days. Bend over and look at her from under my legs, or grab a leaf and cut a small hole in the middle and look at her through the hole. I was back at her house again. I took her to the store and a nice place to eat before heading back to her house. We cuddled back on the sofa as the movie played. I wasn't even paying attention to the movie, and I wasn't feeling the romance that I felt before. Instead, I kept taking glances at her and worried that she might have that scary look on her again like last time. She noticed my actions and looked at me, causing me to jump a little. "What's wrong? You don't like the movie?" she asked. "No, it's not that. Just that you're so beautiful, I can't keep my eyes off you," I said. She blushed and put her head on my chest. The closer she was to me, the more goosebumps I felt. I told her that I needed to go use the bathroom, so I got up and walked to the bathroom. I left the bathroom open door as I went in, so she didn't know whether I was done or not. After I got done peeing, I washed my hands and quietly walked out. She was still sitting on the sofa. I turned my back to her as I bent down all the way until my face was at my legs. I took a look at her, and I never felt so scared in my life. The behind of her head was busted wide open. I could see her brain and even blood all over her head. Her hair was covering most of it, so I only saw a little. Just then, she turned her head towards me as I immediately pushed my body back up and pretended to wipe my hands like I just got back from the bathroom. She smiled at me before getting up and making her way toward me. I was shivering with fear, trying not to believe what I just saw. She walked up to me with a worried look. "You look like you just saw a ghost. Are you okay?" she asked. "Yeah, I'm fine," I said back. We went into her room and sat down on her bed as she sat down next to me, trying to start a conversation. She is so beautiful, and I don't ever want to lose a girl like her, but if she's really a ghost, then I would have no other choice but to leave her. I told her to close her eyes for a bit, and I'll give her a present, and she happily closed her eyes. I pulled out the leaf from my pocket that my mom gave me. She poked a hole through the middle of the leaf just before handing it to me. I raised the leaf all the way to my eyes and looked right through it as I was facing her. It was something that I regret until this day. I never saw anything more terrifying. I only heard it in stories, but now I get to see it in person. Her body was a mess. She looked like she was torn apart by rocks. Her face was just blood and a mess of flesh. I could even see her eyes hanging off and her tongue poking out. I immediately felt sweat all over my body and froze in fear. I ripped the leaf to pieces and put it back in my pocket. I wanted to run for my life, but I was already here. She was so beautiful, like an angel, but her real body is just a corpse. She opened her eyes and looked at me confused. "Where's the present?" she asked. I looked at her, not knowing what to say. I told her I forgot the present at home. She frowned but smiled again. "It's okay, you're already my present. I regret not believing my parents." She tried to kiss me, but I backed up. I went to the bathroom and sat on the toilet for a while, thinking of what to do. Just then, the sound of knocking scared me as I looked at the door. She was outside the door, just waiting for me to get out. I got off the toilet and washed my hands before opening the door to see her standing there ghostly. It's almost like she was starting to know that I know now, since she keeps staying close to me, not letting me go anywhere far away. She's also being a little more controlling with me now. Every time I told her I needed to go back to my car to grab something, she would tell me she wanted to come along too. I couldn't go anywhere. I didn't want to stay another night anymore. It was too scary for me just knowing that I'm staying with my girlfriend, that isn't even a human, no more alone in the house. Her parents don't even know that I'm here just alone in their house, and I don't even know how she was able to open the door for me. Maybe it's something that ghosts and spirits can do. I tried hard not to be in the room with her, so I kept moving around acting like I was exploring the house, but at every corner I turned to, she was just standing there watching me, just like in those horror movies. The tone of her voice had also changed. She wasn't the happy, cute, and clingy girl that I was with before. She seemed quieter, and her voice had gotten deeper. "Babe, I don't feel good. Is it okay if I go back home to my parents to eat some medicine, then I'll come back?" I asked her, but she didn't allow it. "We have medicine here too, if you want. I can go grab you some," she said to me. I nod my head no. This is very bad. I've learned my lesson to not talk to random girls online ever again. She wasn't doing anything other than just watching me trying to read what I will do next. It's getting late. You sure you don't want to sleep? She asked. I'm not tired yet, I said back, trying not to panic. Then let's get back to my room and do what we want to do. She said I told her I wasn't feeling well. She moved close to me and put her hand on my forehead. You seem to have a fever. Did you get a cold? She asked. Maybe it is kind of cold today, I said. She wrapped her arms around me and moved her face close to mine, trying to warm me up. Just the image of seeing her earlier scares me so bad that I couldn't even face her. I just stood there, frozen in fear. She puts her hand on my head and forces me to face her. She didn't even question me why I was being this way, since she already knows that I found out. But yet, she didn't care. We stayed like this for a few minutes. I could hear her breathing. Suddenly my phone started ringing. I gently pushed her off me and grabbed my phone to look at whoever was calling me. It was my mom. She probably knew the situation I'm in right now, and that's why she purposely called. I picked up the call right away as I walked out of the room. My mom was asking me how it went, which I couldn't tell her since the ghost was right there watching me. My mom then pretended to be very sick and for me to go back home. I turned to my girlfriend and told her, but she grabbed my shirt, nodding her head no. Your mom will feel better tomorrow. Just stay here with me for another night, she said. I try to convince her, but she won't fall for it. No matter what I said, she won't let me leave. I couldn't think of anything else. My mom then told me to just pretend to go to sleep and wait until she lowers her guard and then make a run for it. I did as I was told, gathered my courage, and tried to stay strong. It felt so uneasy laying down on a bed next to a dead person. She wouldn't even close her eyes. Instead, she just had her eyes on me, watching me with her ghostly eyes. I thought of an idea. It was a very stupid and silly idea, but I had to do anything that can get me out of there. I started to take off her clothes and act like we were going to do the dirty. I had to make sure she falls completely for it to lower her guard. I forced myself to make out with her again. I forgot to bring protection from the car. Stay right here and wait for me, I said to her. But last time you didn't even use it, she said. Yeah, because last time I forgot. I lied, getting off her and putting my shirt back on as she was laying there watching me. I'll be back quick, I said. Speed walking out of the room into the living room, I grabbed my keys and put on my shoes as fast as the speed of light before rushing out of the house and to my car. Somehow she fell for it this time, but that's a good thing she did. I had to do anything I could to escape. I turned on the engine as fast as possible before speeding off the road. I tried to call my mom, but before I can even find her in my contacts, I looked to my front view, and there she was, standing there, but her body wasn't normal anymore. Her whole body was rotten, and there was blood dripping down her face. I could hear her screaming echoing inside my ears. Sucks for me since I had to drive through the quiet road that barely has any cars running, especially at his hour. There were no lights or anything. It was just like those countryside roads where there were barns and trees around. I quickly made a turn past her as I entered the countryside road where it was dead silence. I looked in the side view mirror, and to my horror, she was chasing me. She was the scariest thing I've ever seen. She had her bloody arms straight out forward facing me, as her long hair was blocking her face, flying all over the place, and she was catching up to my car about just a few meters away. I increased my speed and prayed for my life. All of the trees around me looked like it was blowing all over the place. I looked in the side view mirror, but she was gone. I couldn't see her anywhere as I panicked and looked at the back of my seat, but good thing she wasn't there. I finally reached the road that was connected to the main road, so I made a turn. Luckily for me, there were no dangerous roads that I had to go through anymore. There were also still cars driving on the roads, so it was less scary for me. I kept turning to look at the back of my car seats in case I might see her sitting back there. I made it the rest of the way home safe. I parked my car in a panic and ran to knock on the door as fast as I could before my mom came and answered. I ran to hug her and cried like a baby. I never felt so happy to see my parents again. My dad went to do some rituals, and my mom tied some leaves around the door as a way to make ghosts stay out. I went to sleep with my little brother that night since I was too scared to sleep alone. I then had a dream of seeing my girlfriend far away looking for me, but she couldn't see me. She was calling my name in her normal voice. I couldn't help but feel bad for her. The next day, my parents went to find a shaman for me. They told me to stay home and not go anywhere. It took a few days until I was almost fully recovered. I went back into my room and sleep alone again. I checked my phone and realized she already left me 4 messages. Message 1. Why? I thought you loved me. Message 2. Why would you run away from me? Message 3. All I wanted was to start a life with you. Message 4. Don't think this is over, I will find you. I wanted to block her forever, but I couldn't bring myself to. Although all of this happened, I still love her too. After all, it wasn't her fault that she died. Later that night, it was about 1 a.m. in the morning as I awoke to the sound of wind and the tree branch brushing against my window. Out of the ordinary, I heard the sound of someone walking outside of my window, as if they were purposely trying to get my attention. I ignored it and tried to go back to sleep, but I needed to go use the bathroom, so I got up and went to go use the bathroom. I had a very weird feeling as someone had just gotten inside the house, so I took out my phone and turned the lights on as I walked around the living room and to the hallways before heading back into my room. I was about to go back to sleep when I heard a knock at the front door. I thought maybe it was my sister coming home late from hanging out with her friends. I sighed and got up to go get the door to let my sister in. "Why are you home so late?" I asked my sister as she walked in. She didn't answer me, and instead she just walked past me right into her room. I thought maybe she was drunk and upset, so she didn't say anything back to me. I closed the door and went back into my room. My room was pitch black since I turned off the light. I got on my bed and was about to close my eyes when I noticed something at the end of my bed. I turned on my phone flashlight and pointed toward it. There were no words that can describe how scared I felt when I shined my phone light towards the end of my bed and saw my sister standing there just looking at me. I felt as if my spirit had just left my body. "Jesus Christ, what the fuck are you doing there?" I yelled. "Sorry, I was wondering if I can sleep with you tonight because I feel very scared," my sister said. She scared me so badly it took me about 6 seconds to process what she said. "What? Sis, you're literally 19 years old. Stop being a baby," I said, still shaking. "Yeah, but I'm still a girl too, okay? I'm scared. And you know Mom and Dad aren't home too. They left us here with some of the younger brothers that you probably woke up just now," she said. I was confused, mixed with fear, mixed with so many other emotions right now that I couldn't even think straight. All right, fine. We're siblings too, so it's fine. But I'm taking the side by the wall," I said to her as she got in bed with me. I thought it was weird because usually my sister never really gets scared easily and would never sleep with me like this, only when we were still little kids. It's funny thinking about it too because she's like a year older than me. I didn't think much of it though. I was facing the wall and not toward her, so I couldn't tell if she was sleeping or not, but I closed my eyes and tried to go to sleep. It felt like an hour later before I woke up to the sound of someone in my room. I was facing the door when I saw it open on its own before seeing my dead girlfriend walk in. She never looked more terrifying than ever. Her hair was covering her face, but I could see a bit of her face. Her face was a mess of blood and rotten flesh, and her body looked like it was torn apart. You could even see some of her flesh hanging out. She slowly made her way towards me as I tried to move, but I couldn't. "There you are. I told you that I'll find you," she said with a very creepy voice as she gave me the most terrifying smile. I moved my body as much as I could until I managed to wake myself up. I looked next to me, but my sister wasn't there. It was still dark outside. I checked my phone and it was already 6 a.m., which meant the sun was already rising. I stayed up using my phone and listened to music until it was morning. Later that day, my parents came back home along with some of the younger siblings. I asked them if my sister came home last night, and shockingly, they said no. My sister did not come home. She slept over at her boyfriend's house last night, which means the person that I was with last night was my dead girlfriend. The thought of it gives me goosebumps. I told my parents about what happened. They looked pretty concerned. What scares me even more is that my younger brother told me he saw a girl following me as I exit my car. The girl was standing a yard away from me, but she didn't enter the house. No matter how many times we had the shaman come over and help fix me, it wouldn't work. The shaman told my parents the only way to really help me get rid of her is to change my name and bring me somewhere else for the time being so she wouldn't find me. That's what my parents did. They changed my name and took me out of town to go live with my uncle and auntie for the time being. My parents would come to visit me from time to time. It seemed like my dead girlfriend lost track of me. When my parents come to visit, they even told me that some nights they would hear a girl call my name in the middle of the night, walking around the house and knocking on the door. Eventually, she stopped coming. They tried to keep her out the best they could. Thinking about everything that happened really makes me sad. I really do love her, and I know that she loves me too, but she's not even a human anymore. I feel very bad for what I did to her, but I had no other choice. If only I got to meet her when she was still a human like me, then right now, we would be living a good life and happily married. I would look back at our messages from time to time, and it would make me happy. Now that I think about it, everything really adds up. When we met at the park, she lied that her parents dropped her off when it was really just her alone, and the reason why she wanted to meet when it was dawn is that the sun was already setting so it wouldn't burn her too much. When I went to go visit her, she had all of the lights off because ghosts don't like lights. She wanted to try to hide her true form from me, but couldn't do much since I managed to see it still. I really do miss her, but I have to let her go. It's been about a year now, and we all thought it was over, so I went back home. Her parents are probably already back home by now, and they still probably haven't found out that I was at their house while they were gone, but I think it's best to keep it that way. I told my friends about it, but I'm not even sure if they believe it. I started hanging out with them again, and we would go out to places like the clubs, mall, and bowling. After hanging out with my friends, it was dark as I was driving back home. I decided to go look at her house again since I miss her so much. I drove by her house again and realized her parents' car wasn't back. It was just empty like before. Out of nowhere, I felt as if I couldn't control my body. It was like I was possessed. I exit my car and walk towards her house until I reach the door. The door opened on itself before closing on its own after I went inside. The house was pitch black. I gained control of my body again as I tried to open the door with fear. Just then, I felt someone's hand grab my arm as I looked at whoever it was. It was so dark that all I could see was the outline of the person. There's no need to escape now. You came back to me, so now you belong to me.